Now it's time for another edition of What Would Jello Do? I'm assuming most people by now have heard of that horrible, tragic fire in the artist space warehouse known as Ghost Ship in Oakland. 36 people died. A lot more people lost everything they owned. And I moved here, I think I arrived the last day of February in 1978 and went straight to the Nuns and Negative Trend show at the Mabuhay. But I think this is the worst tragedy of its kind I know of, I can think of, that's happened in this area the whole time I've been here. And I wound up talking at the memorial in the park, wasn't planning to. I just went down because I just think, wait a minute, I'm watching this on the news. I'm really upset. I'm grieving. I need to be with people. So I went over just, I need a hug too. It doesn't matter who I am. And eventually, Jello, get on the mic. And, I talked about my feelings about closure and why there isn't any when you lose somebody dear to you. You just kind of let it flow through and then get up and keep going. I mean, there's more on that on the What Would Jello Do on the death of my father. But the really important part I forgot to say at Lake Merritt, and this goes for everybody all over the world, is I would say a majority of people who ever watch this at some point are going to be going to an underground show, an event, music, dance, DJs, spoken word, plays, gallery showing, movie, whatever. And I think the best tribute we can all give to the people who died in this fire is every time we go out to any space, including commercial concert spaces, have a plan. Just in case something like this really does happen, know already where the exits are and how you would likely be able to get out, which I guess was especially difficult in the so-called labyrinth, which was the bottom floor of the ghost ship. And at first I too was feeling like, the guy running the place, they ought to throw the book at him. But then talking to one of the event coordinators at Ghost Ship, who was at the Lake Merritt Memorial, he said that they had a written record of trying to get this landlord to do something about the electricity in the building, which wasn't even good if you stored crates of stuff there and didn't have a space there. And he also was adamant that the landlord knew full well what was going on in the building the entire time. And I guess it's one of these landlords that's owned a bunch of buildings like this and just takes rent off of people, doesn't bother to fix them or even sell the building. Just, it's ours, it's ours, it's ours, give us the money. And that's as far as they go. So what do? Yes, Ghost Ship was one hell of a fire trap. Cardboard walls, the stairs made out of pallets, you name it, it could happen. But I don't think the answer is for city officials all over the country to suddenly declare war on artists and spaces and start trying to enforce building codes they never bothered with before in hopes of clearing out all the artists so they can put up more yuppie kennels and raise the rent and all that. I mean, this has been an old game in San Francisco when I first moved here. A particularly cruel mayor by the name of Dianne Feinstein would send the fire marshal or the cops around to any show, especially punk shows, that didn't happen to be connected with her buddy Bill Graham, who wanted a monopoly on Bay Area shows and practically had it, except for the little ones. So, that's one of the reasons I've always called her the Margaret Thatcher of San Francisco. But what do? As one woman put it at the memorial, the further and further and further we drive artists into the dark, the more there is a risk that people are going to die. Here we are, a country that loves pop stars but hates artists. And there is other ways to handle this. A law went through in 2010 in New York offering right of return, requiring the people owning the building to bring it up to code, and even to the point where the well-known squad ABC No Rio, which is kind of the closest thing east of the Mississippi to Gilman Street, I suppose, people running it were able to buy the building for $1 if they would bring the building up to code. And I don't know whether they're paying people for it or doing it themselves, but That's not unheard of, especially overseas. Both Dead Kennedys and my current band have played many a venue that started out as a illegally seized squat, and finally, like the place Dead Kennedys played, which might even still be the Arena now in Vienna, unless it was a different one. Anyway, the city finally threw up their hands. Okay, we've got this huge factory complex in the middle of town, rust-belt, hellhole-ish looking thing in our beautiful opera house, Vienna. You people bring it up to code and fix it. You can keep the building. And this one wound up having apartments, a medical clinic, a school, a playground, a concert venue. They really, really did it up because they had a stake in the whole thing instead of trying to hide and cower one step away from living in a tent on DeBow Street just because, like little old me at age 19, they were chasing a dream and wanted to be able to do artistic things, smart and stupid at the same time, young things. You have to be able to nurture these kind of things, or you're not going to get the next Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or, Kanye West or whatever. You've got to let people make things. I mean, another example would be this music label, my friend Torgeir Lund from Trondheim in Norway, which is up and around the coast from Oslo and north of Bergen. He has this label called Crispin Glover Records with Crispin Glover's hair and nothing else as the logo. But look at the packaging on these things. This is a punk record, Brutal Cook, and it's got this gold plastic stuff that folds out. You got your gatefold, and of course the record comes out, and there's some more, and then you got what? Oh, a black inner sleeve, colored vinyl. Look at all this stuff. Spider God, another really cool one. You get this again. You got really cool art. Ooh, whoa, there comes some more art. And of course, a gold inner sleeve. A white one wouldn't do. And, oh, Torgeir, you're slipping. It's black vinyl this time. I finally thought, what is he doing? Selling these for 40 or 50 bucks a piece and has enough money that he just put out another record with it? And that's his market? And he said, oh, no, don't you understand? Government grants. As though government grants to make things happened over here. In Norway, you could submit your record to the government, yes, the big bad government. They check it out. Okay, this is worth supporting. $12,000 equivalent would come back in promotional money, and then they wouldn't check it, so he just put out another record and then send that in. And it's nurturing a more vibrant art scene in Norway, including a new venue that was built out of a squat in Trondheim, and they let them have it. This is how you can keep people safe and, yes, make America creative again, or whatever, or at least allow people to flourish who don't necessarily want to get an MBA and work in the tech world. Not everybody does, and people need to respect and encourage that instead of cutting money for education and then complaining that the people who graduate are so stupid they vote for Donald Trump and we're not as intellectually competitive as other countries who are even willing to pay their students to go to universities because they want a smart workforce. Over here, even student loans, even when Obama says he's forgiving them, we still have to make sure student loans make a profit for the government. The profit for the government is educated people who don't have $100,000 in loans hanging over their head, right? Welfare cheats. Why not look at it the way other countries do? If there aren't enough jobs and people just want to build up their lives, figure out what to do, and maybe blow everybody's minds and advance civilization, give them the money. Welfare isn't bad. Forgiving student loans isn't bad. It's the right thing to do, and you'll have a much happier place as a result.